I see this all the time, particularly in the pharmaceutical fields. API development can sometimes be pretty expensive, and if you're doing development work, you're obviously not going to be in reactor scale batches. So typically these are done in very small round bottom flasks. You may only precipitate out a very small amount of your material. So for small batches, there are a couple of things that you want to keep in mind. One is that you're going to limit the number of diffracting crystallites in your sample on the sample holder itself. So like any analytical technique, the less material you have, the less signal you get off of it. So you can sort of account for this and make up for this by either rotating or spinning your sample. The phaser has a rotation stage built in by default, and what this allows you to do is very gently change the orientation of the diffracting crystallites so that you can actually get better statistical averaging. Another thing you can do is count longer in order to get greater counting statistics to really bring your noise back down. But if I go back a couple of slides, let's see if I can find this. The one thing that I find is most common is using a low background holder. So in this case, we're using a silicon wafer, which is cut along a very specific direction to give a very low background to the actual diffraction pattern itself. Some people will refer to these as zero background holders. Explicitly, they're not zero background. There's always going to be some background. So we should correctly refer to them as low background holders. But we'll also see this not only with silicon, but sometimes with quartz as well. So this is just a very small amount of powder that's been dusted on top of this wafer. So the wafer is inserted and made flush with the top part of this sample holder, and then you can simply just sprinkle your little powder on top and then get away with very small amounts. This is actually a fairly large amount of sample for using the wafer technique. So this is referred to as either top dusting or a sprinkle approach, and you can either use a static charge or a small amount of vacuum grease or petroleum grease to adhere the particles to that top surface so they don't go flying off whenever you're loading it onto your sample.